I'm just going to say to everybody, welcome to what is, I believe, the 31st IEP Live Learn Lunch. Really looking forward to today's session. For those of you who joined us before when Nemo was here, and we had a great session, and today we're back for the second of 3 sessions where we're going to be looking at values in action and exploring how these can support us in our roles as advisors within the employability sector. And that's this week's session. We do have more sessions coming up as ever over the coming weeks. We have Results CIC joining us to look at CPD through change next week. We have coming up in October, Nemo will be joining us again for the 3rd and final of this series of live learn lunches, and we'll talk about that a bit more later. We also have career mums joining us to talk us through some tips that can help us support people who are returning, parents that are returning to work after a career break to have children. And we also have in October, on the 14th of October, we're going to have another session for those of you who couldn't make it to the last one around how to access the IEP learning and development platform and how to complete the induction modules that are included there, because we've had several requests for that. But enough about what's coming up in the future. I'm going to take this opportunity now to pass you over to Nemo. And as ever, I'm going to be in the chat box, so please do ask questions, get involved, and let's enjoy this session. So Nemo, over to you.
Thanks very much. Hello everyone and welcome. I'm just going to start my screen share now, so here we go. And fingers crossed you can see my starting of my slides.
Yep, we can see that.
Thanks Helen. So yeah, just to say, yeah, this is part 2 of 3 on the Steps to Career Fulfillment series. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing what I have prepared with you all. Just gonna get on to the next slide here, just to briefly introduce myself. Apologies if you met me last time, but for those that might not have been there, I'll just give a brief overview to my background. I'm a professional coach, and I'm qualified with the International Coaching Federation, which is the largest and longest running organisation supporting coaching in the world. And there's 25,000 plus coaches who are members of that body, yeah, I'm very proud to wear the badge. I've been working as a coach for about 5 years, mainly with social entrepreneurs and emerging leaders and those in career transitions. And one of my strap lines is about leading, living and working with purpose, which seems to encapsulate my real aim and vision. And I really want to catalyse people's kind of personal agency, and so that, you know, especially in these times where we're going through so much change and transition, there's so many things that need doing and to kind of get through in a way. And so I'm hoping that this content I'm sharing with you will be useful to you individually and maybe some of your clients, to really mobilize that potential that we have amongst us. And I suppose, you know, we spend so much time at work, so this is a really important topic about how to kind of get the most out of ourselves and do the kind of work that we were born to do. As well as the coaching, I offer facilitation and action learning. And in my past, I released an album of music, acoustic guitar-based music, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in my explanations today. Yeah, so we've done Authentic Happiness, which was last time, and there is a YouTube video available if you missed it, and I've put a link in at the end. We're doing Values in Action today, which you'll find out all about in a minute. And later on in 7th October, I'll be sharing something that brings together all of what I've shared in one place for the sort of career sweet spot session. So watch out for that one. And I just wanted to say that, you know, I know that there's so much knowledge and experience amongst this group. And so I'm hoping today to be interactive. There'll be opportunities for you to share thoughts and ideas in the chat box. And at one point we'll have chance to actually hear from some of you if you would like to take part and explore your values in action report. So lots of interaction, and there'll be chance for Q&A later on, and at the end there'll be some links, and I'll send slides out through Helen afterwards. So I think we're all ready to go. And to start with, I just wanted to mention values in action. What is it? And then we can look at how to use it and so on. So I use the analogy of, it's like, what have you got in the kitchen? So it's like some of you might have lots of chili, some of you might have lots of bananas, some have got really good sharp knives or great pans or whatever. And so we all have this unique kind of variety of things that we can use in different ways. Some of us have more of some, and some of us have more of others. And so this comes from the positive psychology space, and two professors, I think they were, Martin Seligman and Christopher Peterson, created this framework in the early 2000s. And they identified 24 character strengths that are basically universally present in people all around the world, according to them. But we have a different blend. And they don't change much throughout life. In fact, I think they're supposed to be fixed. And so you've got what you've got. And so the trick here is learning about yourself, or helping your clients learn about themselves, so that they can then basically play their own tune or go with the grain, so to speak. It's strengths-based, so they're all strengths, and even if you have some of them low down, they're still there, but it does have a different meaning in terms of how that shows up in your life or work. And that's a lot of what I'm going to share with you today. To actually find out more about your strengths in this, here's the 24 first. And I don't want to read all of them out, but they're grouped into 6 subgroups. As you can see on the left, things like wisdom and knowledge, for example. And just to call out a few, there are things like creativity, or let's look at down the list there, kindness. You know, you probably know someone, or you might be someone that's really kind, and you know those kind of people. Zest. I have high zest, and I'll share that in a minute. And zestful people are quite enthusiastic and willing to throw themselves into things, and so on. So there's 24, and there's a free assessment that you can do to find out your unique list of 24 in order of how present they are in you. The links at the end of the slides. And I'm hoping that some of you might have actually had a go and done your assessment and have a report available to you. If you haven't, then just listen along and see if you can get the gist of it. But if you have, I would suggest dig it out, go and get it, and sort of have it available as we go, because you'll be able to really reflect on yours while we do this. I wonder actually if you could just maybe pop in a chat box if anyone has actually done their character assessment. That would be really good to know. So just keep an eye on that for me, Helen, and see if anyone's done theirs.
Hello. Well, yeah, Etheline has done hers, so I'm just waiting to hear if anyone else has.
Great. Well, thank you for letting me know about that. I will continue on. So I'm going to share a bit about my report now, so that I can illustrate how to use these. On the left of the slide, you'll see the things that we typically look for as coaches. And this is recommended if you're reviewing your own, is explore what's at the top of the chart, so to speak. So what are the top 5? What's at the bottom? And then we can go deeper and start to think, well, when are these actually too much gone into overdrive, in other words? And how sometimes they might be useful in combinations. And so I want to tell you a little story from my life to share how they show up, or have shown up for me, to help you see this. And so on the right hand side, you can see that my top three, according to my report, are love of learning at number 1, zest at number 2, and leadership at number 3. And so I've got lots of that in my kitchen. And at the bottom, low prudence, judgment, and perseverance. Not much of that around in my kitchen. And that's what I wanted to kind of like reflect on as I tell you a bit about my life, and to see where these have shown up. And so I wanted to take you back to when I was in my high school years, and I was good at learning. I had a love of learning, and as you can see, it's number 1. And so I got good exam results. In fact, I had straight 1s, which is the Scottish equivalent of an A in standard grades back in those days at GCSE and GCSE level. And then was getting lots of encouragement to go on and really study hard and things, which I did, and followed in the footsteps of my older brother and the advice of teachers and things, and started doing a medical degree. But the truth is, that wasn't really my thing. I just happened to be good at learning stuff, and so I was able to pass the exams and you know, and accomplish the requirements of the degree. And I got to a point about halfway through, because they split it into 2 medical degrees, and I realised this wasn't for me. I had a different passion, which happened to be music making. And I was able to basically leave the programme at that point, take the degree with me, and move on to something else. And so here we have an example of where having low perseverance, which for me is my number 24, is quite handy, because it wasn't hard for me to make that break and to change path. It wasn't particularly easy, but it certainly I could do it, and many people wouldn't find that kind of thing easy. So I want to illustrate, first of all, having something low down the charts is not a weakness. It's actually can be really useful in certain circumstances. And also, so that having something high, like love of learning high, when it goes into overdrive, it can be a problem, because, you know, I'm not actually stopping to think, I'm just learning stuff, I'm really into learning things, and suddenly I've gone somewhere that's not really where I want to go. So that's an example of overdrive. So it's just to illustrate the different types of things, what's at the top, what's at the bottom, and where's overdrive when it happens. And then I went on to do this music, and over the years taught myself to produce music, to play various instruments, to record and mix things down. And again, love of learning was there for me, somebody that can really figure things out by Googling them, looking through instruction manuals, going onto YouTube or what have you. And with the zest and the love of learning combined, I could really push for it. And I spent thousands of hours working on that kind of thing, recording and writing and mixing things down and listening back. And I released an album in 2012, which I'm very proud of. And it's just to show you again some of these different factors. So I'm going to ask a few questions now. I'm going to kind of see how this is going for everyone, because it can, I imagine it can be a little complex. So we're going to illustrate it now with, I'm going to ask you guys 3 questions, and we'll take them one at a time. And then if you could put your answers in the chat box, and we'll see what sense you're making of this. So if you had low bravery, okay, now bravery is defined here as courage, not shrinking from threat or challenge or difficulty or pain, but speaking up for what's right, even if there's opposition, acting on conviction, even if it's unpopular. It could include physical bravery, but that's not all it's limited to. So if you've got low bravery, you don't have much of that, how can it actually be useful? So answers in the chat box.
just waiting to give people an opportunity to type some stuff in there, but that's a really interesting question, isn't it? Pamela has said self-preservation and survival.
Absolutely. It's a tough question. Sorry, carry on, Helen.
No, I agree. It's a tough question. As you was asking it, I was thinking, oh wow, I think sometimes for me, if you know the person you're with is maybe quite confrontational. I've worked with people where I know their trigger can be quite, their trigger towards, I don't want to say violence, but their trigger towards a sort of more aggressive behaviour or that lockdown of logical thinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes taking a more low-key approach is more useful. Etheline has said choosing when to speak out and when not to.
Yep. All good stuff. I absolutely agree, and so there's an ability to sort of avoid the kind of the blowouts,
Yes.
and keeping things calm, and also being able to stick with it or discomfort. You can sort of hold on without having to suddenly change everything. I think stopping people taking dangerous risks as well. So there's obviously some qualities to having low bravery, and it might not be your classic thought. Often you'd be, I have to be brave, we're all supposed to be brave. So it's interesting that sometimes this stuff can be useful.
I think that's a really interesting point that you've just made there, because when you said it in that way about the risk taking, as a mother of a 7-year-old who likes to climb on climbing frames and do all sorts of things, sometimes I wish she had a little bit less bravery, because as the mom watching, it's terrifying that she's off and she's being brave and she thinks it's wonderful. So I think that sort of shift for me has helped me be a bit clearer with that.
Oh. Let's try the next one. So how does having high judgment be useful? Now I can read the description out. It says thinking things through, examining them from all sides, not jumping to conclusions, being able to change one's mind in light of evidence, and weighing all evidence fairly. So if you've got lots of that, when and how could that be useful?
Right, so again, we'll just give people chance to pop things in chat. I think the word judgment's quite an interesting one from the point of view of the employability sector, because often when we talk about coaching and supporting our customers and our participants, we talk about needing to be, not be judgmental. So I think that word overlaps sometimes, doesn't it? It has a different meaning in this context. Pamela said listening and being diplomatic. An example of when that can be useful.
Yeah, totally. And actually, Helen, I hear you about that word judgment. It can evoke so many different things. I think here it is about that critical faculty to examine things and then decide on something, but from a position of, thought through place.
And I think we often in our sector have to support people with making informed decisions, and so there's that level of supporting someone else with their ability to use judgment themselves, and so we need to, we almost need to be able to do it ourselves to role model it. Etheline has said being able to stand back and to listen and weigh things up.
Nice. And I'll add one in, which is, things might sometimes be going in the wrong direction, and somebody with high judgment can actually weigh that up and say, hold on a minute, I think we need to change what we're doing here, or go somewhere else, or do something differently. So really, really valuable to have that at times.
Yeah, definitely.
And then this third one, which is about self-regulation, which is about, to give you a definition, regulating what one feels and does, being disciplined, controlling one's appetites and emotions. So again, I've gone for the controversial. I've said, when's it useful if you've got low self-regulation?
That's a tricky one, isn't it? I'll be interested to see here what the group come up with.
Yeah.
Because it's often perceived, isn't it, that self-regulation is so important that we always sort of need to have it in place.
And it does help, doesn't it, to have it for so many things. So these are useful in different ways in different places. I imagine this one might be getting people might be stuck.
Ali has said,
yeah,
may take chances or create opportunities that you wouldn't normally. An ethical
brilliant.
read. I think that's a fantastic example.
That's fantastic, exactly. And you know, so it's like being able to go with the flow, try new things out easily, you know, not get stuck in fixed patterns.
And Pamela's saying might help when you need to change track. So along the topic you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, so those, it's great to hear these answers because you're really, everyone or the people who've contributed are clearly getting the idea that, you know, these character strengths can be useful even if they're low down the list. And sometimes, I mean, we could just do one more, which I'll just suggest today. Like if you have, oh, actually, you've already done this one, Helen. If we go back to bravery, if you've got high bravery, as we've heard with your daughter, I mean, and I'm glad to hear you're there. You know, she might take some with high bravery might take risks that take them a bit out of the safety zone, if you like.
Yes, yeah. So sometimes it can actually we can step too far and it can set us further back because you can make choices that harm more than help.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's it. That's when something's in overdrive. Just to illustrate overdrive. So, I mean, if you might even have this in a team. Like if you're a very brave team and everyone's like, let's go for, let's push, let's do more. The general trend, they may take on a project that's actually, they put all their eggs in one basket, for example. And that's when you might need someone who's got high judgment to say, hold on a minute, have you thought this through? What happens if it doesn't work? So these things all interplay, even in ourselves or within our teams. And so I think we've really explored the way you can stretch and play with these character strengths. And I'm going to go on to the key insight for me, which is they're not actually strengths and weaknesses because there's pros and cons to all of them in all positions. And that's usually quite a game changer for people because often when you see stuff low down, you start to think, oh, well, I've got to improve on that. But not necessarily. And so this idea of going with your grain is one that I think is really important in terms of certainly showing up and offering your best in your work, but also in getting that fulfillment and happiness in life because you're sort of accepting yourself. But there are workarounds and there are things that we need to do when we have got lower character strengths that sometimes can hold us back. Like, for example, I mentioned to you earlier that I've got, like, say, high love of learning. And for me, I just need to remember not to just take on too much learning and sometimes just to do something with it. So just mentioning that although they're not strengths and weaknesses, sometimes we need to find workarounds to balance ourselves. So having done all that, and I appreciate it's quite technical and there's a lot of information, I'd like to just explore maybe with somebody who, well, if there's someone who's willing to do this, just to jump on the microphone and share a little bit of their own example of your character strengths, and I'll just like talk to you about them and see what's there. Is there someone that would like to do that?
Just waiting to see if we have any volunteers. If I'd done it, I would be more than happy to volunteer. I think it's fascinating. I'm not sure. Oh, okay. So Evie is happy to, but the camera's not working. That's absolutely fine, Evie. I'm going to unmute your mic. I'm going to ask you to unmute so you can, but yeah, we don't need the camera on.
Not at all.
Are you there, Evie?
Hiya, yeah.
Oh, hello, thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much for volunteering. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
Great. And quick question: have you done your character strength thing assessment?
Yeah, I did it last year, so
Okay.
it's a year old, but yeah.
Well, that's not a problem because they don't tend to change. And what I'd like to ask you a little bit about is if you could choose one of your top ones first. Is it okay just to share what that is?
Yeah, so the top strength I got was creativity.
Okay, and how does that show up in your life at the moment?
Well, it's quite interesting actually because I was surprised that was my top list. It was so high because I mean it does make it clear that it's not limited to like artistic achievement. It is just like a way of conceptualizing and things. But I think my creativity comes in with problem solving and things like that. It tends to be my strategic thinking that I'm creative with. I like finding unique solutions to problems and things like that, and sort of perfecting that. And so I would say that's how my creativity comes in. Um, yeah.
Nice. It's really a great example of how it's not always the obvious as well. So you're able to use it through problem solving and other ways, not just maybe like creating artwork for which might be
Yeah.
the obvious. Um, and you know, knowing that about yourself, does that is it useful to have that awareness for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think because I tend to, I suppose I'm a little bit hard on myself, but I tend to see myself as very logical and very strategic, and that's what these sort of things always reflect back to me, that I possess good judgment. I like learning, I like that sort of side of it. And it was just really interesting because creativity to me just sort of has like connotations of going with the flow and things like that, and things being like, or like almost spirituality, or that sort of um, something outside of your control. And that is just not something I associate with myself at all. So it was a bit of a revelation when I saw that at the top. I explored it and it did make sense, but it was a surprise.
Thanks for your openness as well to share that, because it can be quite interesting. I mean, some people have stuff that's low down that's quite hard to seems quite hard to take. Like I've worked with
Mm,
people who've got love at 24, for example, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the way that we often think, oh, we're supposed to all be all this stuff. Um, and how about the bottom five? Would you share one of those if you've got that to hand?
yeah, well, I actually have love at 23. So,
Okay, yeah. So how
yeah.
does that show up in your life for you?
I think, again, I did feel quite a lot of, I suppose shame is a bit dramatic, but yeah, it was something that I was like, oh, okay. Because I would say that um, people think of me, well, and actually I got kindness and fairness as my two, second and third highest. So, but like people would say about me most frequently that I'm a very kind person.
Hmm.
And the thing that I always get in my appraisals is that I'm very good at communication. And so that having love so close down was a bit of a, oh my goodness, sorry. Yeah, it was a bit of a, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? Am I sort of but it talks about valuing close relationships and being close with other people. And I think the way I could see that in my life is that I'm quite private, which people
Hmm.
don't expect,
Yeah.
but because I'm quite an honest person. But and I have no need to fill my life with people. I
Hmm.
am very happy with having a few close people in my life, and um, yeah, I'm very all or nothing with
Yeah.
attachment, and so I have no need to have lots of friends or anything like that. I'd much rather have very close relationships. Um, so yeah, like that, it kind of made sense from that point of view.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. It's, really, really interesting to hear how they do show up in different ways for us, for different people. And there must be lots of times when it's important to be to have in our teams or in our organisations people that are able to spend time alone and go it alone and make things happen without necessarily needing to be and know that everyone's well and loved and cared for. But that's not to say it's not important. It's just different ways of being, and sometimes they're useful, and sometimes it takes more work for us to behave in different ways. There's not necessarily a judgment applied to it. Um, and it's great that you shared you've got high kindness as well, because, for example, that's a different facet of your character, and often we can use some of the higher up ones to, if you like, help work around when things aren't as natural for us. So this can get quite nuanced, and I know it's only a short webinar, but I just think, I wanted to give you, thanks so much for sharing your experience. And the last question I wanted to ask was, what are you, as you've used this tool, what's been the most useful way of using this stuff? Is there anything specific that you would share that's been useful to you?
I think there's nothing. I've not necessarily implemented anything on from this in terms of, oh, I really need to look at that, or I'm a quite a self-analytical person, or just analytical person in general, but and I like learning. Information is, knowledge is power and all of that. I think I've more used it as prompt, I suppose, like as a series of prompts to be, okay, what's your initial reaction to that? How do you feel about that? And so, like, the feeling of, oh, I'm really surprised that creativity is so high on the list. That is information. And so, okay, let's delve into that. Let's explore that. What does that mean? And yeah, I think it's just useful to me, one, to, if it's surprising, that's great, because that means it's something I don't already know. And then also just to, yeah, I think just coming at something from another lens. I like to come at things from all angles and perspectives, and I think it just allows me to do that it's like a framework to do that, I suppose, for me.
Yeah, thank you. And I wonder if a couple of thoughts I may offer that, just for the wider group about this, are around, sometimes it's can be useful to sort of help you choose the types of work and roles that you might take on, and also what to put yourself forward for in a group, or how to configure your specific effort in a specific task. So it could be a number of things, but if you were in a team, for example, Evie, and there was a challenge around problem solving, like how are we need someone to kind of take a group to figure out how we're going to reinvent our whatever. If you've got high creativity, you'd be a real asset in that group. And
Yeah.
and sometimes if you know that about yourself, it gives you that confidence to put your hand up, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely, the more of these sort of, tests or whatever I do, it's given me almost permission to be assertive with what my strengths are, which I definitely didn't feel before. So I feel like I can say, oh, actually, no, I'm good at communication, because that's been a massive, it's something that's very important to me, but it's always something that I'm really worried that I don't do very well. And it's actually given me the the confidence to be like, actually, I get consistently good feedback in this. I think I put a lot of effort into it. I do this well, and that's been an interesting development.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing. And I'll let you go now, but it's been great to talk to you. And I'll just check in with Helen. Hello there, Helen. So we've got, I think I'll move on because that was quite chunky rather than take another one. And I'm going to just go on to the next slide, which is a minute for you all just to take a moment to reflect if there's any insights and that might be useful to you, particularly thinking about, imagining you meet some clients and you could actually offer them this assessment. They could do this for free, and that you could talk to them with this through their report. So if you've got any insights or ideas that are useful, take a minute now to note those down, and then I'll ask for some sharing in a minute. So I'm just going to leave it silent now for about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, so maybe you've written something down. I would love to hear any ideas that you were willing to share in the chat box to either of those questions. So please do share if you feel like it.
Excellent. So we're just waiting to give people enough time to pop something in the chat if they'd like to. I think for me, while we're giving people time to chat, I think it's sort of what's really useful is exploring how what initially could be perceived as a sort of a negative trait or behaviour, such as low bravery, is actually valuable and useful at different times. So that knowledge that it's okay to be you and it's okay to have those different aspects, because there's no perfect spread, is there? There's no right one or wrong one. It's just who you are and how you operate within a moment. I think that works really well when we're supporting other people as well as ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
there's so much media these days, isn't there, about how we should be a certain way to be successful, and to, you know, it's almost like the Facebook profile person of how we need to be. And actually, it's okay not to be those things. It's okay to be who you are, and your strengths will come through. And your weaknesses can often be strengths. We perceive them as weaknesses, but they can be strengths. And I think that's a really powerful message for people.
100%. I mean, so much of what I do in my coaching is to sort of, if you like, take the self-criticism out and see what's there. And then from that place, you know, people's confidence starts to grow and they can shine. And if somebody's, you know, not the textbook, if you like, social media type person, whatever that is, you know, there's a really important role for that kind of person too. I think there might be some people sharing some insights here.
Yeah, Etheline has said spirituality came top for her, which she wasn't aware that she brings to work with her. That's interesting.
Well, I say a word on that one as well, because some of these are quite loaded phrases, as you picked up with judgment. And I think the essence of the spirituality character strength is that you may have a sense of faith in, not necessarily in God in quotation marks, but in that things will be all right. You know, that you can see that even though things are difficult, that you'll hold that hope and that belief that that something can work. And so it may help you understand that, or it may not, but it's certainly an interesting one if it surprised you to look at the definition and maybe reflect on if there's some truth in it for you.
Excellent, thank you. Pamela's popped in there that she hasn't done the test yet, but thinks the assessment will be good in helping with building confidence and to understand yourself. She went on to say it could be useful in today's working from home environment when we're not getting feedback. She had put WFM and I was panicking thinking I should know that and I don't know what it means, but she corrected it for me and I figured it out. So thank you for that, Pamela.
Yeah, that is really interesting, because it is tough working from home and in these different environments away from other people, and it can feel like, to me, a bit like being in an echo chamber sometimes. So having your character strengths nearby and as you navigate the challenges and stuff could be really useful. I certainly refer to mine regularly and get to know myself more and more as a result.
Excellent, thank you. Those are the comments
we
have at the moment.
And I know that there's a general movement around helping clients, for example, to get into work. And I just wonder if maybe, Helen, you've got any thoughts as well about how could this be useful for people that are supporting clients in their sort of journey to work?
Okay, so Etheline's responded that yes, your reply did hold true with her as she works with supporting students with disabilities into work, and she does have faith. So that really aligned with her values there.
Oh, good to hear it. Well, I mean, my belief is that used appropriately with people, this can help steer their choices in the work they decide to go for, or how they view themselves in the organisations or situations they're in, and can be very empowering. And I hope that we've managed to at least spark some the start of a more useful application of this kind of assessment, because my experience is lots of people do them and then they end up on the shelf because it's like, oh, that was nice, but there's not really much use you get from them. So, by exploring it a bit more deeply, and this session here, I'm hoping that it might have, created a chink of light for some of you that about, oh, there's quite a world you can get access to with this kind of stuff. And so I'm going to move on to the sort of last part really, which is Q&A, before I talk about other things that we've got going on. So if anyone got any questions, I'm happy to take them for 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, so if anyone's got any questions around how to apply this sort of when you are working, either for yourself or how to support sort of program participants and customers with it, that would be great. While we're giving people time, a question that springs to mind for me is, would you say these elements or these values are something that can be developed through self-awareness, or is it sort of a static pattern that we tend to hold firm on?
It's a really, really good question. My understanding is that they stay relatively fixed. But what seems to happen is, as you get more awareness of them, of where they are in their sort of hierarchy for you, you just are able to, if you like, get the best out of yourself. So where, for example, I've got low perseverance, I know to set things up in my diary, and I know when I get that feeling of I can't be bothered to do something anymore, it's like I'm aware, oh, it's that showing up, and so I have my own kind of workarounds. So they don't really change, but you kind of get better at it. Like, you get better at cooking when you try all the spices out. You sort of, it takes a bit of work, but you just get more out of yourself, basically.
So it's more about sort of understanding it and using that level of self-awareness to put in place. If you know something's low down, but it's important to have a mechanism in place to make sure that it doesn't become a gap for you, and that you maybe if it's something, if it is perseverance, you work with someone who has a good attention to detail or is more focused in that way.
Good example. And then you can also do things like, you might have low perseverance, but you've got high zest, or something like that. So it's that thing, okay, or high level learning. So I can go on and say that I'll Google like how to get things done, might be, and then I can actually learn how to do it because I've got high learning. So it's like you can sort of like, you can sort of decode your own sort of setup, and then look for useful ways to actually build those workarounds or to get the best out of yourself. And it is worth working with a coach or someone like that if you really want to optimize. That's why people like me have work, because having someone else to bounce off and to figure it out together is a very powerful way to really accelerate your personal growth and development.
And that's an interesting point. And another question we have is, because this is an assessment and it's a self-assessment, obviously self-awareness can play a big part in it. So how can we sort of offset our natural bias to try and answer in the way we'd like to be seen rather than how we really are?
Gosh, that's such a good question, and I find these things really difficult to answer. When you do the assessment questions and they say, "Are you more like this or more like that?" and I'm like, "Well, which one is it?" My normal response to this is just go with what kind of comes to you. Like, don't overthink it. Usually, if you've sort of been trying to work out the right answer, you've gone too far down that thinking line. It's almost just instinctive.
Instinct.
Yeah, if possible.
How about asking friends to give you a bit of a steer if you are truly stumped?
Oh, I like that. That's a good idea. Thanks for that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So asking other people what they would say about you, to me, it's that how people see you, and the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle, isn't it?
Could well be.
Where you are.
Like
Those are the questions we have. I've got some more comments here. So Ethelene says, during lockdown, it could also be used to tailor areas where we might not be using because of lack of client contact. So again, to sort of produce some feedback and some developmental opportunities.
Oh, that's a great idea as well. I mean, if people, I mean, are a little lost as to what to do in terms of what do I do with my time, or what should I get on with, or how should I develop my career or move, what way should I go? If you do look at those top strengths, for example, and start to align with those, you might find, you can get some good results and start to find that get the wind back in your sails. So like if someone's got high leadership, it really, I mean, I've got, it's a number 3. And so what works for me is actually initiating things, organizing small groups, starting new initiatives and stuff like that. And suddenly I'm moving and I'm using my character strengths, and it's just a natural thing for me. If someone's got high creativity, it might be to do something with that, for example. Just illustration that once you look at those, and with someone who's stuck, you can share, oh, well, what kind of things could you do with these attributes that you have? And you might find that suddenly they start to consider jobs or work ideas that they'd never felt they could.
I think it's a really interesting point from yourself and Evie's discussion earlier around creativity, because we tend to think of creativity as someone who draws artistic pictures, or, as you sort of said, creates music. There's lots of ways to be creative, aren't there? So I guess this is an exploration of what that actually means, and what it means in conjunction with yourself and how it manifests in yourself. We've also had a comment from Evie saying she likes that explanation that you previously went through. I think it presents using this in a long-term way and positions it as a process and not as static. So it's not I am this, that's that, but it's more of a process for developing yourself in order to have the systems in place to achieve what your goals are.
Beautifully put. Yeah, that's a great way to describe it, and it is quite a profound and powerful thing to do, and it isn't necessarily one conversation or one quickly answer the questions and it's done. It is a tool. It is like having a kind of a framework or a mechanism to grow and develop and achieve things based on your strengths. So that's one of the reasons. Yeah, sorry.
So, no, sorry, a final question for you then. So as this is a tool and we're talking about it can be quite powerful, and we're looking at using this with our customers and our clients, how would you recommend to our attendees, how would you recommend positioning this when you're setting it up with a client around what you want them to do and how you're going to debrief this after the session?
Okay, good question that. Well, I suppose there's different levels of depth you can do this. I mean, what I tend to do with coaching clients is, as I begin to work with them early on, I'll say, there's an option that I have, which is to do this assessment. I'll give you a debrief, and we can use that throughout the time we work together, so that we've got this kind of information that you can build on. And the way I do it is they fill in the survey, the assessment, and they bring that to a conversation. Well, I'll have a look in advance as well, and I'll ask questions a little bit like what you saw earlier on with Evie, but spend a bit more time on it, and also think about how that applies to their overall goals and what they want to accomplish. So it's a sort of dialogue thing, and then later on throughout the relationship, when maybe we're having a follow-up conversation and they're saying, I'm stuck, and you might say, and I wonder how your VIA strengths are at play here. Which ones are and they might say, oh yeah, it's low perseverance again, or it's, I'm in overdrive with I'm trying to do too much stuff. My creativity is in overdrive. So you just sort of remind them of it and ask them which ones are at play, and so that they start to take charge of their own, if you like, vehicle. Like they get their hands on the steering wheel again of themselves. Does that answer the question? It's quite I know it's quite a complicated sort of answer, but that's what came to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's fantastic. So Etheline says she's found that she's having to be very creative at the moment, using her IT with skills with students remotely, which is not her usual way of interacting, which is something I think we can all empathise with at the moment, can't we? And it looks to be continuing for some time moving forward.
And if you do have low creativity and you need to be creative, then it's about looking for workarounds. It might be find someone else who knows how to do that stuff and ask them to give you a hand. Just for example.
Yeah.
Well,
Excellent. So those are all the questions we've had, and we're nearly out of time.
I'll just tell you the last bits. So there's some links I've shared with you here. You can do the survey if you haven't done it already at the top one, and there's a handbook which is available if you want to really get into depth. And the previous webinars there, and this does build on that one. So you might, if you find this interesting, if you have a look back, you'll start to see the linkage. And we're doing your career sweet spot on the 7th, which will be a chance to really look at your values in action, what you're naturally wired for, how you can make money out of it, and sort of bring it all together into some kind of clear way forward. And last of all, just to let you know that I am setting up a career reinvention group, which is group coaching, and it will consist of 6 90-minute sessions on Tuesday mornings. You'll help, if you want to join this, you can help shape the content so that it'll be exactly tailored to what you want. And initially, there's an offer, if you book by the 14th, that's available to you, which is a discount of £250. And if you're interested and want to know more, you just email me and I'll give you more details.
Fantastic. So we've had a question from Pamela saying, can we show the assessment link again? Pamela, I will send it to you. We will get the link out directly to you, to your inbox, so you have it.
Well, thanks so much for your attention and for those wonderful questions. And I hope you get some value from today. I'm sure there's something in it. And yep, you know how to contact me if anything else you have any questions in the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nemo. I've really enjoyed that. And I'm going to take half an hour out this afternoon and I'm going to make sure I do my assessment, because I lost track. I'm guessing perseverance won't be high on mine, because I intended to after our last session and I never made it to the assessment. So
right, yeah. Well, I'll hold you to that. Let me know when you've done it.
You can
let me know when you've done it,
yes,
and then you see now I've put in a structure to keep you on track.
There you are. I was going to say, you've just coached me, haven't you? Because now I've got to email you when I've done it. So I will. Thank you, everybody, for doing that and for joining us today. It's been great to have you. I hope to see you on our next session and on Nemo's session the following week as well. As I've said, if you haven't managed to attend any of the Digital Technology College, that should be live now on the YouTube channel. Do join us again for some of the future sessions. And as ever, thank you very much for attending and joining in with the discussion.